Good morning, everyone. Today I will be presenting President Jose P. Laurel, born on March 9th, 1891, and died on November 6th, 1959. Warning: I do not claim property of everything written or any photos. They belong to the original writers. These are only references. Please treat with utmost secrecy. To further understand how Laurel's life happened, or what did he do in his life, let us first begin with his biography. He received his degree of law in UP, or the University of the Philippines. During 1915, Masters of Law in University of Santo Tomas. A degree of advanced jurisprudence 4 years after that, before he earned a doctorate on civil law in Yale University in the United States of America in 1920. Laurel was present during the 1923 cabinet crisis in the Philippines. In protest to conduct of the arbitrary American Governor-General at this time period, he resigned. Later, he returned to politics and was elected to the Senate. When the war with Japan broke out, he was designated as the Secretary of Justice by the fleeing officials. Before the war broke out, Laurel was a lawyer for the local Japanese community. This gave him strong ties with the Japanese before the war, during and after the war. So what were the roles of Jose P. Laurel during his service in the government? We have five presented here, as we can see: Senator, Secretary, Undersecretary, a Secretary of Justice, and finally he became the President of the Philippines. To further understand what is the Second Philippine Republic, let's talk about the Second Philippine Republic during the time of Laurel's presidency and his term as him being a president. During World War II, the Philippines Second Republic was created. On June 16, 1943, Japanese Prime Minister Hideki Tojo promised the Philippines freedom. The revised constitution was then accepted by the preparatory community of the Philippine independence on September 4th, 1943, and ratified by the Kalibapi 3 days later, September 7th, 1943. However, the Supreme Court deemed Philippines Second Republic and the Philippine Executive Commission to be a de facto part of the Philippine government. As a result, none of the Second Republic laws or regulations were explicitly recognized by the de jure Commonwealth government led by Manuel Quezon, which was recognized by the Supreme Court. Treason charges were brought against officials who served the Second Republic on January 28, 1948. They were granted amnesty by Manuel Rojas. Despite this, Jose P. Laurel was chosen as the Second Republic's president, as a duty that is a little too much for the Republic. Laurel, on the other hand, worked tirelessly to tackle difficulties that arose during the conflict. This conflict was World War II, one of which being a food scarcity. The war had taken its toll on the population and had discovered that the main cause of food shortage was a lack of fuel, which the Japanese said was required for their war effort. He had to safeguard the people from being abused, and he refused to hand over Manuel Rojas to the Japanese military police. Peace and order issues grew significantly. Thus, Laurel granted amnesty to the guerrilla soldiers that have been there during the conflict. The Japanese did not like this proposal, but in the end, laurel still prevailed after all the struggles. So, what were the significant laws that Laurel supported? Laurel supported many laws. However, most of them were either before or after his presidency of the Second Philippine Republic in World War II. He took part in the drafting of the Philippine Constitution of 1935 along with Rojas and Elpidio Quirino, two former presidents after Laurel. He served as a negotiator for the Laurel-Langley Trade Agreement. Supported Executive Order Number 44S 1944, which was signed on March 31st, 1944 by Laurel himself. Participation as a senator in the ratification of the San Francisco Treaty in 1952 and the Reparations Agreement in 1956. In 1934, he sponsored the Bill of Rights, which was later incorporated to the Philippine Constitution. So we can thank Laurel for a lot of things, including in the laws that he has supported. These laws are, though after or before his presidency, they are still very much related to today's time. This is what shaped the Philippines as a whole for what it is right now. So after the war, after Laurel's term, he ran for a Senate seat and maintained diplomatic relations with Japan. With the help of Ambassador Felino Neri, the first post-war ambassador to Japan, his son, Jose B. Laurel III, who also became an ambassador, and eventually Benjamin F. Sanvictores, a representative of Filipino intellectuals studying in Japan. The Philippine-Japanese Society was founded. Regrettably, he was not present in the first organizational meeting, which took place on November 6, 1959. Even after Jose P. Laurel's death, his son, Jose B. Laurel, continued his father's effort to improve Philippine-Japanese relations. So we can also thank Laurel that we have a very good relationship with Japan. As you can see today, most Filipinos, or some of us, really work in Japan. And this is because of how Laurel shaped our Philippine-Japanese society. We will talk about his downfall. Jose P. Laurel was shot by guerrilla troops several times. Because he was a pro-Japanese, but he healed each time. The Allies accused him with many counts of treason for conspiring with the Japanese. He even declared war on the United States. But no Filipinos were recruited to fight for the Japanese. And ultimately, President Manuel Rojas granted him amnesty. Because we can understand that, yes, he was a maybe a puppet government, but we can need to see sometimes outside the line or outside the box. You might never know what is the person thinking. And to be fair, he was even imprisoned in Japan after the war, or maybe before. And these were just a few of their downfalls, of what has happened to our great president, Jose Laurel. I would like to ask the class if do we have any more questions before we go. Thank you everyone for listening to my report. That would be all for today.